Hi, this is part two with my chat with Jimmy Recca, and apologize my fans and listeners and the Church of Rock followers. We are back for part two. Thanks, Jimmy, for joining us again, man.
Hey, good to see you, man.
Yeah. So we left off yesterday. Yesterday I had some issues. So let's go ahead and start fresh. What was Iggy Pop like when you met the guy? What do you have to say about Iggy Pop?
He's weird, but
What'd you say?
It was Iggy. It was like he didn't let me down with all the things that I, witnessed on stage. Watching them guys, how they came about and watching them, progress through the years. So it was like kind of like cool thing, and like they accepted me into the band like right away. So it was like it was cool because I got to. They were staying at the Ann Arbor Towers. It's a big apartment building and right into downtown Ann Arbor. And so at the Stooge house, they were like not remodeling. It should have been remodeled, but they were like clearing out rooms and stuff like that. So until like I had a room at the Stooge Manor, we call it then. Not the Fun House was like their own. I don't know. We call it the Manor, but they had an apartment building, and Scotty and James Williamson they had an apartment down below, and Iggy had the penthouse up there, so they had no place to meet. So I go up. You're going to be roommates with Pop, okay? I said, okay. So me and him and his bird. He had a parrot named I can't think of I can't remember his name. Woodrow. But it was cool. Yeah, Iggy was okay.
Iggy still has a bird today. That's cool.
Yeah, he's a bird lover. He had this little parrot that and it's a sad story that while my stay there, he Woodrow wasn't doing so well health wise, and I guess he got neglected for a couple of weeks. But when I came there, I was regularly fed him, and one day Woodrow just fell off of his perch, and Pop was very concerned. He caressed him and patted him, and old Woodrow died in his hands.
Oh, that's sad, man.
It's a parrot's life, a pirate's life.
Good one, dude. What was that dynamic like when the band had the two guitar players with Ron and James? What was that like? Was that tense at all?
It was strange because when I joined the band, I assumed that we were going to be doing like all the Stooges set, and I memorized them just by watching them and play and hearing them play. I've been playing bass for quite a while, so I was like, nothing to learn the songs, but they had a whole new set arranged, and so that was kind of hard getting through to, I met Ron earlier, but when you get into a music thing, and I was dig this, I'm 5 years younger than all of them, except Scotty's like 4 years older, Ron's 4 years. They're all like older guys, it's like they're hanging out with my brother's friends, it's like they're like, and I'm there on their equal. So I just, I had to like just listen to what are we gonna do now. So the songs rapid fire. James would take me, off, but me and him, a couple hours a day in a room by ourselves, sometimes in a hallway, and just drill the songs, and then we go in that night and rehearse what they taught me. So I was like, I was just like, I wanted to play. I want to be your dog. I wanted to play No Fun, but then it wasn't going down. It was all new stuff. So it was kind of hard getting through. Most of my communication was through James, and James is, his personality is that the kind, he kind of like just, looks at you. And when you're around the other guys, he's a new guy himself too. So, but he had kind of took the reins. So the dynamic between me and Ron was like on the other side of the room. And so I was always like looking for Ron because I always looked up to him. He's a great guitar player, and he just had this really cool persona on stage. I always thought was, like he had the rock star image, and I was always trying to look for his approval, but I'm like busy, like, listening to James, to get the parts down. So it took a while, but me and Scotty hooked up right away. Our personalities kind of like, fun loving guy, and there's stories I could go on and on about, like, rooming with him on the road. But yeah, we got on. It took a while, but we had a gig coming up. I joined the band like late February, and we didn't get to really into rehearsals until like probably first week of March. And we had a gig lined up on the April 13th. That was like a first gig with the Stooges, and we were playing with the MC5 at the Vanity Ballroom. They just reopened this really old, cool, Art Deco place in Detroit. That's like my dad went there, back in the 30s. But so it was like I was like on the spot. I had to learn these songs unless I get them down. And we didn't rehearse that much with Iggy. Iggy we rehearsed for like maybe 10 minutes of warming up, and then Pop would come in, and then we just have to go through the songs. And be honest with you, at the time, Pop didn't have much lyrics for the new songs. He was like making it up as he go. The only song that I know that he jumped in and had, first chorus, first down was "I Got a Right." That was like, it still carries today. We do that song at the All-Star gig. So yeah, it was cool.
So how many gigs did you play with the Stooges?
I was like maybe like 11 or 12 gigs.
Wow.
That was like, they had these kind of a mini tour lined up that it was already booked like 6 months ahead. So they had a whole different lineup when those gigs were booked. So we had to like a couple of them got canceled due to like just the venue, and then towards the end it got worse because Pop wasn't making we were flying everywhere that day. It was cheap enough to fly regionally. You could go to Detroit to Chicago for like $18. So wow. I mean, yeah, it was, instead of like getting in a bus or an old broken down van or whatever and driving around and paying for gas, we just like fly there, fly home, fly there, fly home, and we gig every weekend. So it was like convenient. It was kind of cool,
What was the most? Do you have like a memorable gig that stands out? I'm sure they were all pretty wild.
Second gig was Chicago Opera House, opening up for Alice Cooper's debut of the Love It to Death tour. And we all boarded the plane at Detroit Metro the day before, April 13th. On April 12th, we all got there early in the morning. So it's the whole Stooges crew and the whole Alice Cooper crew boarding this business flight to Chicago. And it's like, all these businessmen on there, and we're like flying coach, it was like 727, and you've got like 12 freaks sitting and mixed in with all these guys going to their like, business meeting at the merchandise mart. And it was like, I mean, one of the most, memorable times is looking back and seeing Glenn Buxton holding up a cigarette and a cocktail, the first time we get a drink, just like it cheers him back. And that's all we did the whole flight, hour flight. We're just like, back then you could smoke on the plane. And so it was like, we're just having a ball, man. It's like, and for me, I'm the 18-year-old kid, and those guys, they didn't realize it. It's like, oh, you got a new bass player. And I go, yeah, I'm 18. He goes, yeah, I can't. Yeah. And I don't know what I want. It's like, it was like, they were like all just laughing about it. It's like, it's really cool. So it's like, that's my most cherished memory, is like, that song was about me, and it's like pretty cool. Yeah.
That is amazing, man.
Buxton, I knew him till he passed away. He was a great friend, but we always sort of clown around about that, just bring it to their memories of like, and Michael Bruce, just say, you remember that time? And even today, Dennis Dunaway, I get contact him on social media, and it's like, leave little notes about like, remember that time we got on that plane in Detroit? I said, yeah, man. Yeah. But it was like, yeah, that's the best one. And the Electric Circus gigs, we played 2 nights at the Electric Circus in New York City. That was my, first time playing in New York. And, everybody was in the crowd that night, legendary sound man, Night Bob, was doing our sound then, and he just took pictures of the band from the sound booth. So it's like, yeah, that's another one. Yeah, and then there's pictures of that. I still post up there, but.
So when you guys were getting towards the very end of the Stooges, when everything was really starting to fall apart, was that because of drugs and just because of general chaos?
Yeah, if you really want to look at the whole thing, like from that point of perspective, it was the drugs were constantly around, and Iggy was trying his best to, he was being told by everybody, the record cup labels, Danny Fields, manager, our kind of like pseudo manager. Danny didn't want to manage the band. He just wanted to, he was like a guidance, and he was not liking the drug scene, but what are you going to do? It's like your lead singer, is supposed to be the guy that's supposed to and he's the guy that's the worst, worst off. And he just wasn't up to it. He needed a break. He hadn't had a break, and he was really in the throes of drug addiction, and it was getting harder to get. And so, because, we were all, going to the place, and the Iggy's trying to cop dope, and with the sources, and it wasn't coming through. I had friends in Detroit that were on methadone, and I went and even gotten methadone for them. Say, take these so you don't have to worry. These, the little white ones, and that's it. He did that for a couple times, and that was in the midway of the tour. He, taking the methadone, and it's no hanks, no angst, no cravings. But as soon as I couldn't get that anymore, it was and then the stuff's around you, it just, the band just we got better. The band got better every time we played, because James is a player, and he played through whatever. I don't know how bad his drugs was. His drug scene got worse toward the end, because he was just started out, and experimenting, and he got hepatitis from it. And so, but James would always show up for the gig. I mean, he just, he was there, and the band, as a band, musical, every time we played, we got better. It just, I got, my first couple of gigs, I was real rusty, and they played tricks on me, unplugging my speakers and shit, and throwing me off as initiation. But as the band grew, the players the music, were all playing our hearts out. Iggy's showing up, but, like I said, the guy needed a break, and he didn't have one, so it's he struggled, but he finally is just he just couldn't, those guys just couldn't, like I said, James got sick, and Iggy just had to go home, and we're getting pretty much drowning in Stooge debt by that time, couldn't make the shows because there's no money in the bank. So yeah, that's all right.
An interesting thing that you guys did the very last Stooges gig contractually with just you and Ron and Scott Ashton. What was that like?
Absolutely, man. Like I said, we hadn't had a gig in a long time. The house the Stooge house that we had, the band, all the band equipment, it was owned by the city. They were planning on closing.
It's okay.
Yeah. They were, we were losing this place, and we had to be out at a certain time, and that all happened during the summer, just before the gig. They came in and started tearing the house down. It's you guys got to get out of here. So Ron and Scotty moved back. Scotty had already been living at his mom's house, so Ron moved back, and I was staying at some friends in Ann Arbor, and so. I'd see Ron every day. We go up to this bar and watch Scott Richard SRC play at this bar. Every other, they had a weekend, a week stay at this one bar in Ann Arbor, and we just all hang out there. And I remember Angie Bowie was there, and we just hang out at the bar and plan the next step. And so Ron came up to me. I'd go over to Ron's house in the afternoon. He said, "Oh yeah, we got this gig Pete Andrews wants us to do." Iggy's not going to show up. James ain't showing up. Just the three of us. He sent us a limo, gave us each $100, and said, "Just show up." And we did. And like I said, we had been playing the whole time. Me and Scotty and Ron were fucking right on. I mean, sorry, but we were right on the money, and we just jammed. And it was a great, you know, place was full. Got a kid that, you know, hanging out on front, like just a Stooge fanatic. And just like Ron goes, hey, why don't you come up here and, you know, do Iggy? The guy said, hey, he jumped at the chance. We just like, that's how we wanted, you know, we played, you know, we jammed for like we call this song called Ron's Jam. And, you know, it turned into like Dead Body. Iggy called it was a, you know, it had different names, but we still do it today at my Norwegian band, Doggerland. We still do all those, you know, some of those 71 songs. But yeah, he got up on stage and closed the show out, and it was like, you know, that was the end. That was the end of, yeah.
How long after the Stooges broke up until you were with the band, The New Order with Ron Ashton?
Well, that came like, you know, when I was at Ron's house when he got the call from London. Iggy had called, you know, Ron's house, and I remember that time of day. It was like around 5 PM. Ron's mom worked at a school district. She worked at food service school district manager, and she wasn't home yet. But that time was like a hectic, and the phone was ringing upstairs, and I don't know where Ron was, in the bathroom or somewhere. And the phone was ringing, and it was on the stairway, and I'm sitting in the living room, and someone's yelling, get the phone, get the phone. And so I ran over and picked up the phone. It's got a long distance call from, you know, and I could hear Iggy in the background. So I said, Ron, is this Ron? I go, no, it's Jimmy. He goes, well, let me speak to Ron. I go, hold on a second, man. Hey, Ronnie, it's Iggy calling from London. You know, hold on, man. You'll be right there. And so I'm on the phone, so waiting for him to pick up. So Ron picks up the phone upstairs, and I hear this guy say, look, man, me and James have been, and this is Iggy talking, me and James are in London. We've been looking all over for bands. We've been trying out different guys, and we can't find anybody. And, you know, and I just want to ask you, we're going to offer you, like, if you want to take it or not, I understand. We want you to play bass, and you and Scotty come over to England. And I just like, oh, okay. That was my what do you say, eviction notice. But yeah, so I just like hung up the phone. And Ron said, like, yeah, man, right away. He didn't even hesitate. He just jumped at the chance because, you know, you wanted to do something. You know, it's like, who wants to sit home in Ann Arbor on a cold ass fucking November and
right,
and give a chance to go to England, you know, and play with your band. No matter, I mean, he would have played Triangle if that's all they offered him. But yeah, that's how that ended.
Crazy. How good of friends were you with Dennis Machine Gun Thompson? I know he was in the band The New Order. Were you guys pretty close?
Yeah, so that's the closeout of the Iggy Zone. So that's when the Raw Power thing. Those guys went to England, and I stayed in. You know, me and Ron were. You know, we stayed in touch. You know, I wish those guys, you know, good fortune, and we stayed friends. So I went back to Detroit, and I eventually found work as a inventory caller for Walgreens drugstore, and traveling around the road and taking inventory band of the drugstore. So we kept in contact. I wrote letters. We wrote letters back and forth, and so the band's going on, and it's like almost 2 years, like 1973. The Raw Power gets released, and those guys, they never had no real management. Tony DeFries is kind of like, you know, they kind of kept him in his hip pocket, and they never really broke out. And finally, they got deported from England because they weren't making any money, and their visa run out, and so they kicked them out, and so they had to come back to the States, and that's when they guess they were still contracted with Columbia, but the Columbia wasn't offering any much. You know, the album was not selling at all, and it had been remixed and taken back, and so it was just they just got a booking agent. I remember it was Helen Reddy's husband's booking agent, and they booked him. You know, there's this national act, and they booked him throughout the country. They did shows, you know, some well-known shows that they did at. You know, they came to Detroit. played the Ford Auditorium. They played at in this bar in
we lost the connection.
Yeah, they played in Atlanta at the club called Mothers, I think. That's a famous one where Elton John showed up in a gorilla costume and jumped on stage, and Iggy rode piggyback. But yeah, it was like, so they had some good shows, and they had picked up Scott Thurston as a piano player that joined the tour. So they were doing good, and then finally wound up in LA and they got him a house. Lee Black Childers was assigned as their tour manager, and they got a house up in the Hollywood Hills, man. And like, they were she creatures of the Hollywood Hills. That's where that was wrote. And they were like becoming like Hollywood, they were holding court up there in a nice house up there. And they did a 2-week stand at the Whiskey A Go-Go. And like I say, man, the band was pumping on all fours, but those guys are they didn't learn. Iggy didn't learn, and James didn't learn, and they just started buying the brown dope out there in L.A. And he just got so strung out. He just and that's what killed the band, killed the raw power band. And those guys, they should have made a second album with that lineup, but it just, Scotty got, followed, the course with Iggy. Scotty just went back home to Ann Arbor, saved his life at that stage. And Iggy and James stayed on, and James wound up, getting busted, almost facing prison time, getting busted for drugs. And Iggy, just a mess, man. Showing he'd hang out, that's, well, before that happened, that's when Ron called me one time. I was working at Walgreens. I got a call. It's Jim, got a call, pick up the phone. It's long distance, California. Ron Ashton on the phone. Ron, Jimmy, this is Ron. Yeah, the band, like I told you, man, wasn't going to make it. It's over. Come on out, man. I got an apartment. Let's do this thing, man. Got some money saved. Come on out to LA, dude. And you bet. Who wants to work for Walgreens unless you're giving me unless you're giving me free drugs? But no. Yeah. Yeah. So I dropped everything, man. I stuck my money in my savings, and I flew out there, and we had an apartment right on Sunset Boulevard, and he was showing up there, hanging out, and that's when he had Danny Sugarman. Was kind of like that was Danny Sugarman. He hung out with the Doors, and Ray Manzarek was a good connection, and he wanted Iggy to try out this band. So we go over and rehearse, just the three of us, up at KJ Knight, who played with Amboy Dukes, well-known drummer from Detroit. He was out there, and Ron, with the three of us got together and started putting this band together, and that's, we just sitting there, me and Ron just sitting around, just jamming tunes and Peter riff and like turn it into a song, take it up to Ray's house at the Wonderland house where the Doors recorded, rehearsed. And Ray Manzarek coming in and listening to the band and, firing up the Vox keyboard, and just like, I'm like, where am I? I'm in heaven, like I'm in rock and roll heaven. So we wanted Iggy to here's your band, here's the band for you. But he wasn't ready. He was still struggling. And he got this idea in his head of going out, Rodney Bingenheimer's, gets books a night there and hires these, Terry Ray from the Hollywood Stars, drummer, still around, straight up dude. Got the guy from Silverhead playing bass. And then he asked Ron to show up with a whip, dressed up as a Nazi, and just beat him with a whip at this gig. And they're not even really playing any songs. They're just like droning. And Iggy takes out a knife and starts cutting himself up, man. And I'm still watching this stuff going, what is this guy doing, man? It's like, and attention, the guy wants attention, and this is how he gets it. So Ron, sure. Ron's an actor, he's just like jumping a chance for like an acting gig, and he dressed up in a brown shirt And he's like, oh, he comes up there, he got this bull whip, and he's just like, what dash? And he's just whacking Iggy over the back. And Iggy's like, got this, like I say, gets a knife from this, Mexican guy in the audience, just pulls out a pocket and just starts slashing himself. Okay, and that was the end. I mean, that basically, there was a couple of instances before where he had gone to a David Bowie concert up at the Diamond Dogs tour. He was at the Universal Amphitheater, and he shows up at the concert in a dress and tries to get backstage, and Bowie's bodyguards and the security with us and tossed him out the back into the parking lot where I had just come from a bar with these two girls that were going to pick up another girl that they went to the concert, and we're in the parking lot, and I'm hanging out with these two girls, and we see this guy or whatever, this girl in a long dress getting the shit beat out of him by these surfers. They were just kicking them, smacking them down. And like, what the hell is going on over there? It's like, and it's parking lot, like, I'm looking at it, like, guys getting up, and these guys are like really, stomping on the guy. I'm like, hey man, come on. They just take off. And I look down, and it's Iggy dressed in a dress. They punched his eye. He got a big black eye. His blood's coming out of his mouth. We put him in the car and take him back. And that was they would carry him upstairs. The dude's like, what happened? This guy's, man, he showed up and he just got beat up by these guys, man. It's like, so apparently at that stage, he had just wandered off and drifted off, and Danny Fields got him into a rehab unit at UCLA. It just started this, like, the NPI, neuropsychiatric institution for like drug, this was like 1974, so that was like, rehab wasn't well known like it is today, and how it became like, conventional. It was like a new thing. He had to go check into like a actual psychiatric unit where they were studying drug addiction, and he got lucky, and that's where he turned made the curve. So
it's interesting.
The New Order thing, we drove up out of there after let Iggy go, and we just kept on going. Just like got Dennis Thompson comes out, and we started writing songs, and eventually got Dave Gilbert, great singer. Bad history with drugs and stuff like that, but he went on and did a great thing with the Rockets. But it just wasn't. We're losing these guys. We got this guy Ray Gunn, good guitar player, but just he wasn't the right guy, and it just wound up. Dave showed up at a gig, a really important gig. The band was firing on all cylinders. We did this gig at the Starwood Club, and he showed up. We had guys from Mercury Records coming on to check us out. We'd already done a couple of shows. They showed interest and talk around town. It was like we're starting to get playing with gigs with headlining over with Quiet Riot, Randy Rhoads hanging out with those guys, and Van Halen, early Van Halen days. We were all coming up 74, 75. So we did came back to Detroit once and did like a few shows, and like starting to get a momentum going. So we come out back to LA, and we get this great show coming up with Starwood, and as I said, the place was packed, and rumor has it that Robert Plant was in the crowd, just upstairs, just like brought his girly friends, and the Runaways were there. We shared a rehearsal room there in LA, and get on stage. Dave doesn't. Where's Dave? Where's Dave? Dave's where is he? He's already showed. He's had a knack for showing up stoned. Okay, stoned. Got a couple of drinks. But this time he shows up 5 minutes before we go on stage, and he's dusted out on angel dust, man. PCP had been smoking, and he was just like, I know the look on his face. I've seen it. I'm like, dude, you not tonight, man. He's just like oblivious, man. And so we drug him in there. You okay? We're going on stage, calling us, and we get up on stage, and he walks out and just standing there. It's like, Dave, Dave, remember where you're at? And I guess, when you're on that stuff, man, you don't know where you're at, dude. It's like you're guessing, and he couldn't utter a lyric, a word. And Ray comes over. He had this guitar shaped like a dick, and he had a compressor that actually squirted. I'm serious, man. It's like I'll send you a picture of Randy Rhoads in the dressing room holding it. His crazy dick guitar that he, and that's it goes with his personality. Ray is just a complete ass, and he just, I was glad, get rid of him, but it's like, at the time, if he'd have just done that one show and got through it, but instead he has this thing charged up with a wine thing and is just squirting Dave down on stage, and the guys and this crowd's going, what's going on, man? What's with these guys, man? So I get him off the stage. Our singers come down with some bad, sickness, and we're just like, so I remember we just went into like, we had a whole slew of covers that we would do. We just jumped into like, I saw her standing there. I'm singing. I'm just like 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, she was just, and I'm just like singing away, and like some of these crazy girls, like the crowd's like completely. I mean, it's a complete stooge thing. That's like, it should have been on film now. Why didn't anybody think of like, recording, taping something like that? I could have been, sitting on Easy Street because I would have owned the rights to it, and because it could have financed a lot of things for me. But yeah, I'm up there singing, and we got a couple of girls come out and they're dancing, and we're singing the Beatles song, and then it's just closed the show down. The worst part about that is that we get off stage and we go back to the dressing room, and Dennis and Ray got wet towels knotted up, and they're just beating poor Dave to the ground. I mean, beating him, like, flogging the guy. And he's just laying there going, and I'm just like looking at Ron, and I'm like going, it's the end. It's over, dude. It's like, so people always say, it's like, oh, I was the one that left first. I walked home. I took this out and said, what are you going to do after that? Who are you going to talk to? What kind of excuse do you come up with? So I get home, and I just, Dave is like, I wanted to keep Dave in the band and get him, like, we could have got him fixed up. He was he went under the Rockets and did several great albums with those guys. He was able to, but he just had to get out of the element of, that lifestyle, man, the drink and the drugging, man. It's just like, could have been done, but it was just one of those things. It's just, it had its moment, and we did what me and Ron wanted to do. We want to start a band together. We did it, and it's history. I made it to where it still sells today, and those demo tapes have been remixed, remastered twice by Cleopatra Records. Thank you very much. And they did a bang up job of packaging and sending it out worldwide. And because of that, I mean, I don't get nothing, that's to buy my cat food, and that's okay with me. But it's out there, and it's like it keeps me. I got bands in Norway, and I'm trying to get this thing set up where I can do these things, these shows, and do a new order 71 Stooges set thrown in with a little bit of the old stuff, and I'm compacting. I'm getting it rolled. I'm starting to get momentum. My friends, like I said, my new thing that I'm coming up with is Norway, God willing, January 4th at the Rockefeller in Oslo, with the great Jim Jones, Larry Mullins, Stooge drummer, Nick Cave drummer, Swan's drummer, great guy. We're all getting together up on stage, and a packed house, and all these great musicians from Scandinavia, Norway. We do like this 3-hour show, and it's just like, the last year we did it, and it was just like, man, it's just like, just like old times. And those guys over there are like just super guys, man. So that's what we're doing. I got another band like in the Western, in Norway, West Olsen, my friends Peroloff, and guys down there. We got a band, Doggerland, and the Stooges, Missing Link, 1971. We combined old Stooges, 71, with some New Order stuff, and we got a show going. We got great singers, and trying to get this thing like a franchise, taking it all over. It made enough money. We take these guys and tour because they're fantastic musicians, man. I just walk up there, they know all the songs, man. They know all the New Order songs. I just walk there and just play bass, man. It's like, what could be cooler than that? You know, making some money would be cool, but hey, I'm 72 going to be in January, and it's like, you know, get this momentum going. I'm doing it all over in major cities, you know. So that's what we're doing.
That is so awesome and admirable that you still rock and roll at that age. And, you know, a lot of people have already given it up, and you seem like you have the energy of like a 45-year-old, you know?
I told him that I'm going to keep doing it till I can't. And it's like, you know, it's like Lemmy was right. You know, if you think you're too old, you are. You know, it's like, I'm old, but it's like I can. And I just you got to keep being, just be. That's who we are, man. As long as you keep being, you'll be doing something. When time comes, it's all our time's going to come, you know. But hey, why make it worse, you know? But you know, hey, I want to keep doing what I'm doing, you know. It's like, in music is what I do. It's like I've learned from all those things. It's like, you know, not many people get a chance of, like, you know, going from the depths, crawling out. You see, you know, you can be in total darkness. If you keep looking up, you find the light will find you, and that's what it did. Good people to find you.
That was really, really well said, Jimmy. That really good stuff there, man, for a lot of people that might have needed to hear that, you know?
It's true. And nothing like the truth, man.
Well, you know, you've told a lot of fun truths yesterday and today with these part 1 and part 2. I really appreciate your time and your patience with me. And thanks again for making the time to join the Church of Rock. We really appreciate all you've done in music. And I hope to play some of your stuff on my radio show. So keep me posted.
Awesome, man. Anytime. We're going to try to record. Well, like you said, like I said, they did some of the show, 2 songs from the show last year, the Oslo show. Ivan Staxrud, give him a plug because he's a great guy, man. Just super person. Jim Jones, I love that guy, man. Larry Mullins, we're like this team, you know. And we just, you know, they did some. They're going to we'll try to get some of the things recorded again and do a video of this next show. And hopefully the Doggerland show, that's the project I'm staying on a little extra time. Fingers crossed, we're going to get some recordings done of that. So that's going to be something maybe like around this time next year, we'll have a release of my new stuff.
Awesome. Well, please keep us posted because we'd love to support you and play your music. And I want to thank you for your time. And it's been a real pleasure.
Awesome, man. Anytime.
Thanks so much, Jimmy. I appreciate it. Keep rocking. Stay young, man.
You too, buddy. Bye.
Take care.